Okay, today we are going to be talking about converting metric units. Our I can statement is, I can use my skills to convert or change metric units. We've talked previously on what some metric units are. Metric units are going to be those ones with the prefixes of like kilo or centa. Oops, let's spell it correctly. And milla. These are some prefixes that we can put on them. But if we're going to measure distance, we're going to measure in meters. If we're going to measure in capacity, we're going to measure in liters. And if we're going to measure in weight, we're going to measure in grams. So we can have kilometers, we can have kiloliters, and we can have kilograms. And we can have centimeters, centiliters, and centigrams, and we can have millimeters, milliliters, and milligrams. So our job for today is we are going to figure out how we can convert from one measurement to another. So for instance, if we have kilometers, how can we change those kilometers to now equal centimeters or liters or grams, those sort of things. We're never going to convert from meters to liters because this is distance and this is capacity. So we would never do meters to liters, we would never do meters to grams or liters to grams. But we could go kilometers to centimeters or kiloliters to centiliters or milligrams to centigrams, something like that. So this is a picture of an albatross. An albatross is a bird. If you couldn't tell, he's got wings and he's got a beak. Birds are often measured by their wingspan, which would be the distance across their wings. What do you think the wingspan of the biggest bird ever seen would be? Well, the albatross is the bird with the biggest wingspan recorded in history. So they've recorded the albatross wingspan at 4 meters. That's 4 meters all the way across. 4 meters would be like 4 meter sticks laid down in a row. So if the wingspan of an albatross bird is 4 meters long, we want to know how many centimeters that's going to be. So I want you to think a minute, how are centimeters and meters related? If you remember previously, I've gone ahead and I've written this kind of out. My acronym for it is, or actually it's called a mnemonic device, is King Henry died Monday drinking chocolate milk. Well, each one of these letters stands for a prefix used in the metric system of measurement. This is kilo, this is hecto, this is deca, this is a meter, and the meter could change. It could be a meter, it could be grams, or it could be liters. All of those would fit in the middle here because these are the prefixes. This D is for deci, this is centi, and this is milla. Well, every time we go one step, we move in sets of 10. So in between, each one of these letters is 10 of the last one. So I need 10 millimeters to equal 1 centimeter. I need 10 centimeters to equal 1 decimeter. I need 10 decimeters to equal 1 meter. I need 10 meters to equal a decameter. I need 10 decameters to equal a hectometer. And I need 10 hectometers to equal 1 kilometer. But, of course, we make more than that in our, we could combine them a little bit and kind of put our jumps together. Because if I go from a kilo to a meter, in 1 kilometer, there are 1,000 meters. So, I go 10 times 10 times 10 equals my kilometer. 1 meter is 1,000 kilometers. I'm sorry, 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters. So the same would be true down here if I were to jump from millimeters to meters. Here I would have, there's 1 meter equals the same thing as 1,000 millimeters because it's 3 jumps. That's why the metric system's a little bit easier than customary, because we're dealing in this set of 10 here. Each jump is going to be a jump of 10, but we have to know all of our jumps to be able to get them to and from, to convert them the way that they need to. Okay, so back to our bird, our albatross here. This albatross has 4 meter wingspan. And we want to know how many centimeters this is. Well, if we write out our little thing, King Henry died Monday. Remember, this could be grams or it could be liters. Drinking chocolate milk. We want to see where we're going in between. So if we're starting here at meters and we want to go all the way down here to centimeters, there are 2 steps that we have to take. Well, in between those 2 steps, there's a set of 10. So there needs to be 10 centimeters equals 1 decimeter. And 10 decimeters equals 1 meter. So the question is, if I were to go from 1 meter, how many centimeters would that be? Well, I need 10 centimeters to equal a decimeter. And then times that by another 10, because I need 10 decimeters to equal a meter. So 10 times 10 means there's 100. 100 centimeters will equal 1 meter. So if we go back here to our albatross, we have 4 meters is going to equal how many centimeters? So if down here we had 1 meter equals 100 centimeters, 4 meters is going to equal 400. I hope you wrote it in your notes. It should equal 400 centimeters. Each jump back and forth in between these letters is 10. The metric system runs on sets of 10. So if I have 10 centimeters to make a decimeter and 10 decimeters to make a meter, I have 100 centimeters to make 1 meter. Let's try another one. Yep, how about this guy? This guy, he is called a harpy eagle. And he has this really cool hairdo there. A harpy eagle is similar to the albatross. It's a type of bird, but it's going to have a wingspan of 200 centimeters. Here's what that harpy eagle looks like when its wings are all spread out. It's going to have a wingspan all the way across of 200 centimeters. Now, if we compare that to the albatross had, oops, let's change our color there. The albatross had 4 meters. If I want to compare that to the harpy eagle, he has 200 centimeters. I can't compare these two because this is meters, this is centimeters, and you know, I can't say, oh, well, 4 is small and 200 is big, because they're not in the right measurement. So I can't make a choice until I figure out how many meters are in 200 centimeters. So let's check this out. Remember, King Henry died Monday drinking chocolate milk. And we're going to jump from centimeters to meters this time. 1, 2. But remember, there's 100 centimeters in 1 meter. So if we're looking at that equation, 1 meter equals 100 centimeters. We're going kind of backwards this time. We're going from centimeters to meters. Well, if 100 centimeters equals 1 meter, well, now we have 200 centimeters. How many meters will it equal? Right, we should have 2 meters here. So now when we come down here and we compare, and we say, oh, okay, well, now we're dealing with the right thing. Now we're dealing in the same type of measurement, 4 meters compared to 2 meters. Which bird has a bigger wingspan? Of course, we would say the albatross. And if you were listening earlier, you know it is the bird with the biggest wingspan. Okay, so now we want to think about how can we do this even if we didn't have the 1 meter equals so many centimeters. So let's do our King Henry died Monday drinking chocolate milk. When we go this way on our chart, we're going to be moving our decimal because say that we had a number of 34. If I wanted to, remember that ninja decimal's hanging out there. If I wanted to divide this number by 10, if I divided it by 1, I'd get the same thing. But if I divide it by 10, I'm getting smaller, so my 34 is going to get smaller. But anytime I divide by 10 or 100 or 1,000, my decimal just moves. That's what happens. And I know some of you are going, oh yeah, well my other teacher said that I drop my zeros. Well, when we multiply, we do, but when we divide or multiply by 10, 100, or 1,000, we're just moving our decimal. So from 34, we're going to divide by 10. There's 1 0 there. Our decimal is going to move 1 spot. Well, where is the decimal hanging out? It's hanging out ninja style right here. It's going to go 1 spot to the left because it's getting smaller. And my final answer is going to be this. What about if I'm dividing by 100? Well, my decimal's still hanging out there ninja style. And this one we have 1, 2 zeros, so it's going to move 1, 2 spots to the left. So it's going to get smaller. And if I divide 34 by 1,000, I have 1, 2, 3 zeros. So my decimal is going to move 3 spaces. It's hanging out here ninja style. 1, 2, boop. But there's nothing there, so we're going to have to add a 0. So this, when we divide by 1,000, we have 0, 34. Now what does this have to do with our converting metric units? Anytime I go from here, I have these really big measures all the way down here. Well, one of these is going to have a lot of these in it. So anytime I'm moving from this side over, I'm going to multiply. I'm either going to, like, as I move, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. I'm going to multiply by 1,000 maybe, or I'm going to multiply by 100, whatever it might be. And if I'm moving this way on my chart, I'm going to divide like we just practiced. Because there's a whole lot of these to equal 1. There's a whole lot of these down here to equal 1 of these up here. So we're going to divide as we go. If we have 1,000 milligrams and we go 1, 2, 3, I divide by 1,000. Now I just have 1. Let's practice it. So we kind of showed that there's 100 centimeters in a meter, but I want to show you on the chart how this works. So, King Henry died Monday drinking chocolate milk. So remember, if I'm going this way, I'm multiplying, or if I'm going towards kilometers, I'm going to divide. Okay, so I need to know which direction am I moving. So I start at centimeters, and I'm moving 2 meters. So in this case, I'm going to divide. So I started with 300 centimeters. I'm going to divide by how many times do I move? Let's see, 1, 2, which means I'll have a 1 with 2 zeros behind it, or 100. So now I have to decide, okay, how is my decimal going to move? Where was it before? It was right here, and we're getting smaller because I'm dividing, so I go 1, 2, and my answer is going to have the decimal there. I wouldn't even need to put these in there. So I would get an answer of 3 meters. We'll practice a little more when you get to the table. So now you need to be thinking about that secret number. I've given a lot of clues and no one has attempted a guess at it. So here's my next clue. The number in the 10,000s place is even. The number in the 10,000s place is even. All right. If you finish this video within the time, go ahead and go to Class Kick. We're going to practice this on Class Kick. As always, happy mathing!